Okay, I'm going to make a video, and I want to make this video because I want to show to you why you should not blindly follow a doctor or anyone else in the healthcare field just blindly. And I'm going to show you why. Now, I do want to make a claim here, and I want to make a disclaimer. One, I'm not medically trained outside of maybe a first aid merit badge way back when I was in the Boy Scouts. I don't know shit about medicine, but I'm going to explain some things here as to what kind of system we have when it comes to any kind of knowledge and how science is handled. So here we go.
Two sisters struggling with their health now say eating only animal products has eliminated their problems. Have a look.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashley. And I'm Sarah. And we are sisters, best friends, and carnivores. You might be thinking, what the heck is a carnivore?
Wait a minute.
We only eat from animals, so no grains, no vegetables, no fruit, no fiber. It might seem insane, but that's why we're here to explain to you how we came to this place. So let's back it up about 6 years ago, where Sarah and I thought we were doing everything we could for our health, eating super healthy, eating a bunch of whole grains, eating our fruits and vegetables every single day, avoiding fats, and we just kept getting sicker and sicker. Constant inflammation, migraines, chronic constipation, acid reflux, brain fog, fatigue, pressures on my body, poor metabolic health, and we finally became diagnosed with undifferentiated connective tissue disease with symptoms aligning with lupus. So we decided.
Okay, so these two young ladies right here, they were having all these terrible symptoms or whatever, and they were following all the crap out there about how to eat with all these, fruits and vegetables and all that other bullshit. So what they do is they start eating all meat. And as you can tell, it's like, what? Wait a minute. Oh my God. But anyway, but this is a lead-in of how these propaganda shows go. Now watch.
Decided to go plant-based last summer. Vegan lifestyle absolutely works for some people, but for our bodies, it was not working. And we switched to a ketogenic diet. We were starting to feel better, but all of our symptoms still weren't resolved. So being the science nerd that I am, I just did a bunch of reading about carnivore, and it all started to make sense. So I just jumped in. I really like the taste of raw beef. I love raw egg yolks, love raw beef fat. As I go more carnivore, I actually crave this. Since switching to this carnivore way of life, all of the remaining autoimmune symptoms that we've been dealing with have been resolved. It's just been so empowering to be able to take back our health.
Sarah and Ashley now join us.
Okay, now they got them on here. Okay, now I want to make this clear. Now, provided all of this stuff is truthful, which, if you go research these ladies on the web, looks like they're being honest here, and I'm going to presume they are. They had terrible symptoms. They started eating all meat, cut all the plants out of the diet, and now they're better. Now, I'm going to go and I'm going to analyze the way this thing is handled, item by item, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to point out why you've really got to pay attention to your own health and quit just blindly following these people.
Via Skype. Welcome. What do you guys eat in an average day?
We eat 2 meals a day. Typically, it will have some muscle meat, so any cut of steak is fair game. Then we'll have some organs, so whether that's liver or heart, and then a lot of animal fats, such as eggs and beef fat trimmings.
And I understand you guys also eat a decent amount of raw meat. Is that true?
We have had raw food before. I'm sure you've heard of steak tartare, but for the most part, we don't focus on raw foods. We cook most of our foods. We have had it before, but it's not our normal day-to-day. Yeah.
The symptoms that you were having, you felt that you were sick, you felt that you were off. You mentioned that you thought you may have an autoimmune or a connective tissue disorder. Tell us about the symptoms you had, when they started, and why you thought that, in fact, was what you had.
I've dealt with chronic constipation since.
Okay, now, this doctor here is calling into question. He's gaslighting these young ladies. Why do you think that's what you had? Like, listen, doc, they know what they had. Okay, but anyway, because it's their goddamn body.
High school. So that was one of the symptoms that I was dealing with. It was common that I would go 7, 8, 9 days without pooping. So I'd also deal with like bloating, indigestion, acid reflux. Other symptoms I was dealing with was Raynaud's in my toes. I also was having chronic fatigue, brain fog, and then I had a lot of anxiety, which was manifesting as panic attacks and insomnia. So that's kind of like an overview of the symptoms that I was dealing with.
Yeah, and so a lot of Ashley's were going on under the surface, where mine kind of manifested on my skin. So I would deal with what you call the butterfly rash on your face, so red inflammation along the nose line, and then rashes on my skin. So I would go out in the sun and develop like a hive reaction almost. I had zero sun tolerance. It was really, really strange. Constant eye infections. So I thought pink eye was like a normal thing for people to get like once a month, because it would just constantly happen to me. Dry eyes, dry mouth, swollen and inflamed joints. And then the reason that I actually went to the doctor to get checked out is because I had been dealing with like a lack of blood flow in my limbs for so long. So my lower half of my legs would turn like purplish orange. And so that's why I originally went to the doctor. And then that's when I got my blood test results, which showed elevated ANA, a low C3, and a few other things that were kind of pointing towards being diagnosed with lupus. But at the time, I didn't have the like perfect blood work for that official diagnosis. And this was all, the original time I went to the doctor was probably, 2017? But these symptoms had been going on probably since
2012.
Sarah and Ashley have been...
Okay, yeah. Now, if you notice, and I'm not going to rewind, but that other doctor, the older one, if you notice, he had this very contemptuous look on his face, like, you know. But anyway, this is part of the propaganda. This is what they do.
Working with Dr. Paul Saladino, who joins us now, also discuss, is internist and nutrition specialist, Dr. Melina Jampoulos. Weighing in via Skype, we have cardiologist Dr. Joel Kahn. And so I want to spend a little time digging a little deeper here into why this may be working for Sarah and Ashley. But more importantly, I just want to ask you, Dr. Saladino, when you're looking at this and you say, okay, all animal products all the time, that's it, nothing else. Why did you decide to recommend that approach?
So to be fair, when I first heard about this diet a few years ago, I thought it was a little bit crazy too. And what I discovered when I really dug into the research was eye-opening. It was so revealing. I think that some of the most eye-opening things that I discovered in my research was all of these toxins that are found in plants, from lectins, isothiocyanates, oxalates, polyphenols. All of these things can be triggering to the immune system by damaging the gut. And I think this is what's such a radical concept here, so that when we eliminate plants, we're eliminating fiber, and we can certainly talk about the lack of human need for fiber or the lack of actual medical evidence that fiber is beneficial for humans, but we're also eliminating all of these potentially damaging things that can cause immunologic activation in humans. And I think that's what we see going on here, is that people are, when they're eating a carnivore diet, and there are thousands of people doing this now, including myself, we get all of these nutrient-rich foods without any of the toxins found in plants, and we see incredible changes in terms of all sorts of diseases beyond, autoimmune diseases across the board are changing in a way that just is so striking to me.
Dr. Jampoulos, I will allow you to respond.
Okay, now the man came in here, Paul Saladino, Dr. Paul Saladino. Now, full disclosure, I like Dr. Saladino. I like him. And that's how I know about this video, is because it's on his channel. So he goes in and he lays out his case in kind of like an opening statement. Okay, now, watch what happens.
I don't know what research you're reading, but there are literally thousands of studies showing the benefits of polyphenols. Let's start with those, for example, plant-based nutrients in the diet. And specifically in terms of lupus, and these poor girls, if they have an autoimmune condition, could be eliminating foods that have been proven to actually benefit lupus. Plus, they're young girls.
Okay, here's the thing. You got this lady right here, okay? She comes out there and she has this emotional response. You can see she's getting kind of worked up. He's saying, hey, look, plant foods can cause these types of symptoms with these women. This woman over here is saying, but they might be eliminating things that can help lupus. Wait a minute. Their symptoms are gone. But anyway.
By eating such a heavy meat diet, they increase their risk of premenopausal breast cancer by 65%, colon cancer. They're not worried about it now, but this is a lifestyle. They've said it themselves. If they continue this for the next 40 years, I can almost guarantee you that they will have colon cancer, and I pray not.
How does she fucking know that? We'll get into that shit later.
Breast cancer too. I like the idea of eliminating toxins. I think, there's a lot of pesticides in foods, but the idea that the parts of plants that protect them against the environment.
Nobody said a fucking thing about pesticides, which there would naturally be more pesticides on plant foods. But anyway.
Which is what you're talking about in terms of lectin and polyphenols, are somehow detrimental to humans. We're not plants. We don't live on air and water and sunshine.
Who the fuck said that? Why is, you see, all of these logical fallacies, we're not plants. Like, no shit, lady. We're mammalians.
We're humans, and the polyphenols in particular have extraordinary benefits in terms of health. There's hundreds of studies.
I would challenge you to show me a single study that shows any harm from meat in terms of the gut that's interventional. So much of what we're looking at.
Okay, now he just asserted to her that. Show me a study. Now what happens, I'll get to this later, but let's watch.
Looking at here with meat, it's been wrongly vilified. You're making these claims that meat is going to increase the risk of breast cancer or colon cancer. This is completely false and unfounded. Meat and animal foods are the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet that humans have been eating throughout our evolution.
I'm not saying meat is not nutrient-dense, and I'm not a vegan person.
To imagine that a food that has been at the center of our evolution throughout our path as humans would cause colon cancer, heart disease, or anything is completely evolutionary and inconsistent. And there is not a single study in existence that shows that eating meat at an interventional level is an increased risk of colon cancer.
There's not a single study with nutrition and intervention.
You see, here's the thing. The man's laying out his case. You see, because a lot of the studies that they're talking about aren't real clinical trials. They're just simply a lot of epidemiology, which I'll get into that later, but listen to this exchange. Dr. Saladino is laying out a very factual case, very matter of fact. She's over here, just going off with, she has this outrage and contempt.
So what I don't want this to become is a food fight between you two, but what I would actually address is there are so many different theories on food, and I just cannot.
Now, in here, this man has to step in because, she's basically losing this one, and he has to say, I don't want it to get into a food fight. Well, that's what the damn show's about, you moron. But he has to kind of segue because Mr. Dr. Saladino there was kind of on a roll.
Not handle it when someone vilifies all fruits and vegetables, someone else vilifies all meats. What I do care about is long-term health. Dr. Khan, you're a cardiologist.
Well, see, here's the thing. This man right here, I don't know what this dude's name is, but he's like vilifies. There was no vilification. Okay? See, these are loaded terms. This is a propaganda show. Because they come in here, the man didn't say that all plants are bad. He said that plants contain certain toxins that can be harmful to humans, which is a matter of fact.
Cardiologist, and when you start to look at eliminating highly processed foods, I think it's a win for everyone. So let's start with a common ground here and then go from there.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. This is the Harvard School of Public Health food plate. I do not believe we ever need to do another recut of this. You drink water, you eat fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and healthy protein. This is not a vegan exclusive diet. This is put a piece of beef, salmon, or chicken. I would suggest organic. These girls' intake of pesticides and herbicides, unless they're spending premium dollars in organic meats, will catch up with them. And I am so happy they're feeling better. That's the medical doctor role. But nonetheless, you cut out garbage and you put in a balanced diet, and that's
You see, here's my issue with people like Dr. Khan here. You know, Dr. Khan job is in the past 40, 50 years or whatever, really, what success stories does the medical community really have when it comes to long-term health and longevity and lifestyle? What are their success stories? They've been pushing this bullshit with grains and vegetables and fruits and healthy proteins and shit for at least 40 years. It seems like that shit came out like in the 1970s or some bullshit. And people have just gotten worse and worse. The only thing that I think that these numbnuts have gotten right in the 20th century is say to quit smoking. Okay, we can agree that smoking is bad. Or they'll talk about, well, you know, processed foods. Okay, well, I can agree with them on that. But the path they're wanting to put you on would not help these young ladies. They said that they were doing all this shit before, but the meat got them off of it. Can't eat meat. No. And they can't eat meat because it's healthy, and that's not the industry they're in.
Canada, that's Australia, that's Italy, that's our USDA. I wonder what Dr. Saladino, a colleague of mine and a psychiatrist, was doing research on this morning in the National Library of Medicine PubMed is all the research studies that are randomized on the carnivore diet. There is not one. I want to share with you when his colleague, Dr. Sean Baker, an orthopedic surgeon, ate 1 year on the carnivore diet, his hemoglobin.
Okay, now this is the kind of disinfo that Mr. Dr. Conjob here wants to put up, because he'll turn around, right? And he'll say, well, there's no studies, randomized control studies on the carnivore diet. Again, this is all being brought up in the context of the health of these two young ladies. Oh, we can't, it's bad and shit. Were the randomized control trials in the science behind any diet long term? There are none. But he doesn't tell you that. Now he's going to talk about Dr. Sean Baker, whom I've followed for a while. He's going to talk about things like markers and all this other kind of stuff. Okay, now I don't know if you know Sean Baker. This dude is jacked. Okay, and I put that up there on the screen because you can go find him on YouTube or whatever. And he's like a very high performing athlete. He's like 53 years old now. The dude, I mean, he eats all meat, and the dude's jacked, and he fucking superior type athlete and shit. And now he's going to start talking about blood markers and whatnot that may or may not mean anything.
A1C was 6.3. That's pre-diabetic. His testosterone was under 250. It took a long time to get him to publish his data, and he's never republished it. I don't know if Dr. Saladino publishes his personal labs. He's never published an article in the National Library of Medicine on this diet. I can find randomized studies on leeches for back pain and cupping for back pain. We don't have a case report about the carnivore diet and what it does to the immune system, what it does to the liver.
Here's the thing again. We don't have any reports. What about the health of people that start eating the carnivore diet and their symptoms of whatever ailment they're suffering from go away? But what they're doing is it's fear mongering. You're gonna die. You're gonna, but you're already doing something. You're already in a condition where you need to do something, then this helps you. All of these phantom things and these numbers that they're putting on here, who came up with all that shit? How do you know? You know if you're healthy, if you feel good and you have energy and you're going along and you're in a good state of mind, then you're doing something right.
They do.
My patients on the ketogenic diet have had cholesterol of 700 in 4 to 6 weeks. Now, I don't have personally any patients on the carnivore diet, and I wouldn't necessarily discourage them if they were at the end of the road, but man, I'd be checking their labs and then I'd be writing it up in a medical journal based on the positive or negative effects. So from 35,000 feet, this is not the scientific method unless Dr. Saladino will contribute to the medical literature and help us understand.
Oh, now they're the champion of the scientific method. Okay, now I'm going to assert to you right now in my research, the scientific method is alien to health science, or what they call health science. There is no health science. For one, it's hard to do that because, you know, human beings are not lab rats. You can't put them, you can't control all this stuff. People walk out of an office or whatever and they can go do what they want. They can lie on these questionnaires and they can do all this other shit. You really don't know. But anyway, let's go on.
How this happens, but that's the scientific literature. That's not TV and blog. So I say no to carnivore until we have science. That's the medical doctors require.
And who controls the science here? Who would fund such a study? Now, these things aren't cheap. You know, a single doctor, they used to say the same thing to Dr. Atkins. About Dr. Atkins had he funded a low carbohydrate diet study at Duke University. And this is many years ago, about the efficacy of a low carb diet. Now, what happened is the results were in favor of the low carb diet. And of course, these same idiots start to dismiss it because it was funded by Dr. Atkins. Now, that really calls into question, they're calling the people at Duke University, you know, unscrupulous. Yeah, they took the money, but that means that they just took the money and, you know, screwed it up. Well, that's most of these studies that you see nowadays are always ones that are funded by people who have an interest. Okay? But anyway, they tell you that you don't have studies. And then if you go out, if Paul Saladino and Sean Baker got a study together, then they would say, oh, the study's biased because they're the ones that pushed it. Or it's big meat industry or something. You can't win with these people.
Dr. Saladino, when you're recommending this diet, what risks do you discuss with your patients?
I don't think there are any risks to eating animal foods exclusively. There are no risks in terms of kidney function. There are many studies which show that high-protein diets do not affect kidney function. There are no studies interventionally that show that eating meat is going to increase the risk of any single cancer. There are no risks to eating the foods that we have been eating as humans for our entire existence.
As an attorney, I would ask you, you're a medical doctor, is that correct?
Absolutely.
And
Okay, now I want to preface this. This right here the way I see this, the way this whole show is done, right, is this man is a heretic, okay? He's a heretic, and he's on trial here. He made his opening statements. He went out and he's going along, and now we're going to have this lady, and you've got to watch this, because if you notice, Dr. Saladino is on here by himself, okay? And he's got how many people are calling him into question? Well, he's got the blonde-headed lady sitting next to him, and there's Dr. Khan, and then there's that other older doctor that thinks the women are, gaslighting those women. Then they got this lady, and of course the moderator in the show, whoever he is. But anyway, let's go on.
You are a psychiatrist, am I
Right, I
correct?
did a residency in psychiatry.
So what do you know about nutrition?
What is
Where
any-
did you gain your background in nutrition?
She's a prosecuting attorney
No,
here.
you listen to me and answer my question. Now I'm asking you to tell us where your background
And he's like sitting here, and this lady is demanding answers. This is like this is like a trial from the Soviet Union or something. You listen to me, you answer my questions. Like, who the fuck is this lady? Anyway, let's get.
from.
I went to medical school, and I studied nutrition in medical school, and I studied nutrition independently. One of the crazy things about medical school is that it teaches you how to read articles. I'm a doctor. I know how to read articles.
So have you
I know
done
how to read
any
the literature.
independent testing? Have you written any articles that was as suggested by the physicians who've been here today?
What does writing articles have to do with my knowledge of
Well,
nutrition?
because I could become you. I could be you as an expert because I read all of the data and all of the articles on this subject. Now I'm an expert? That doesn't make me an expert.
With the proper background and with the medical training.
This is the most ridiculous display of, I mean, it's like this man is, Jesus Christ, this man is on trial here. This is the reason you can't listen to these people. Why would they have to do this to this man? Why don't they just talk about what he says specifically? They never ask him what studies. They never ask him about how really he came to this conclusion, or why he thinks it's the best. He's just constantly being attacked on all sides.
Like, medicine needs to think about teaching doctors more nutrition in medical school. But it is up to us to educate ourselves. Just because there's a degree that says a doctor doesn't mean that we have or don't have medical nutritional knowledge.
The bottom line is you practice psychiatry, am I correct?
I practice medicine.
You practice psychiatry, is that correct?
I practice medicine.
So what makes you an expert in this?
Because an expert in what? An expert in
Well, of course, he's a heretic. Burn him.
The separation of human into organ systems doesn't serve the patient. To say that because I'm a psychiatrist, I don't know about nutrition is a completely...
I didn't say that.
That's
Your
what you were
expertise
inferring. That's what
is
you
the
were
mind.
inferring. Well,
Yeah.
Where does the inflammation come from that causes depression and anxiety? It comes from the body. It doesn't come from the brain.
It's a scary thought process that is all you need to do is read articles to make you an expert. I want to know what kind of testing you've done, what kind of data you have, what you yourself...
Yeah, now here's the thing. She doesn't talk, she doesn't grill the other, medical doctors on here, like the lady sitting next to him or Dr. Conjob or anybody else, about how they came to any of this. Do they have published papers or any of this other stuff? She never talks about that. She's only grilling him.
have found regarding these issues,
I'm not sure
other than what reliance is on other people's
I'm not
findings.
sure I understand your question, because that's how
You
anyone
don't want to
views
listen
it.
to my question because you know I'm right.
No, you're wrong.
What? When you talk about the animal diet,
Wait a second.
when you
I
talk
need to
about...
be given the floor to respond to this. This isn't fair.
Okay.
Right?
No, and he's right. He's trying to defend himself, but he's being ganged up on.
Anyone
isn't
gathers
fair.
data by reading articles. Anyone gathers data by learning. What you're suggesting is not a fair criticism of me.
I'm a board-certified physician nutrition specialist.
Right.
I have been practicing nutrition exclusively. I'm trained as an internist. I was originally board certified in.
Okay, now she's running off her stuff. Okay, this is a basic appeal to authority. I'm an authority. You're not. Go ahead.
Internal medicine. I have spent 20 years. You've been
So
dabbling
what?
in this for a few years, reading articles.
Oh yeah,
I've been
yeah,
doing
exactly.
it, working
See,
with patients.
that's right. Now, how many people like this? Where's her success stories? Let's talk about that. But it's all just an appeal. Hey, I'm great. Just look at me. I've been patted on the back and I've got some paper on the wall.
My oath is first do no harm. And I am not a plant-based person. I don't advocate only plants. I think meat. I think there is nutrient density. I think getting rid of the processed foods and the toxins in processed foods, that's what's damaging
Show me
the
the
gut.
study that meat is dangerous.
Show me the study that broccoli is dangerous to lupus.
Okay, wait. I will show you the study.
Yeah, the thing is he's ready to show her the studies. She doesn't have a study that says meat's bad because there are none. But, let's keep going.
Can you please just provide the name of one reputable medical journal that supports the meat diet? That's what they are.
You see, the thing is okay, well, he can go back and he can connect all these dots, okay, and say, hey, look, meat-based diet's good. There's at least proof with two ladies that were originally on this show. But if you've got something that doesn't have the endorsement of some medical journal, then, I guess it's no good. But you see, these are the games they play.
Asking.
Right.
Thank you.
So in 1930, there was a study published in the British Medical Journal of a year-long investigation of two people in Bellevue Medical Hospital who were eating an exclusive carnivore diet. And during that period of time, these people experienced no negative effects, no dangerous changes in blood pressure, kidney function. They only experienced good things, a little bit of weight loss, and came out of the study saying that they felt better than when they started. So there have been prolonged, detailed studies of a full carnivore diet.
It's a one-year study from 1930.
Of two people.
Has there been anything since?
Yeah, but the one thing is if this diet's so bad, then the two people should have had, some kind of negative effects. There should have been something. What about the ladies from the beginning, the two sisters? And the one thing is the lack of evidence for something doesn't make it wrong. But we'll get into that later.
1930 with more than two people.
There was a study at Harvard done looking at the carnivore diet with regard to gut flora. And so they put people on a carnivore diet for 1 week, and they looked at changes in gut flora, and they didn't see any change in the microbiome in terms of alpha diversity. There was
1 week. Literally, there are thousands and thousands of studies that
We see this, oh my God, dear God, we're all going to die. Look, see, this is...
show the benefits of fruits, vegetables, nuts, and we're not saying meat's bad for you. I ate meat last night, but you keep getting back to, no one is saying meat is bad for you. What we are saying is, if all you eat for your whole life, ever,
oh my God,
meat,
we have to be hysterical. Jesus, it's part of this because it's a scientific discussion.
that's not good. I don't have to be a doctor. I'm just I'm blown away right now.
He's blown away, yeah, because Jesus Christ, if you start talking about anything like this, it's just terrible. Just blown away because he's so smart. Can't even speak rationally. Look at the emotional responses here.
Beautiful thing. Unequivocally, people can have different diets and be healthy. There are people who eat nothing but plants, right? There are people who eat primarily animal.
Significant decline in health outcomes. And I don't know that anyone here is suggesting that a plant-based...
No, and here's the thing too, is if you look at there's a lot of people who've done veganism, been vegans, and it wrecked their health. There's a lot of testimonials. Now, I don't know if any scientific studies have been done, but anecdotes do matter, ladies and gentlemen. They absolutely do. They're not meaningless.
plant-based diet is the way to go. But what I am suggesting is that there are toxins in plants, that we do not need things in plants, and that there are no studies showing that meat is damaging for humans.
Dr. Khan, go ahead.
I just want to say, unfortunately, it's going to be 10 to 20 years till we can really judge if there's actually ever a prospective study of more than 2 people in the 1930s, cancer and heart disease risks. These are slow-growing processes, and meaning it 1 week of a microbiome study, 1 year in a metabolic lab in the 1930s when they didn't know what high-sensitivity C-reactive protein is, are not meaningless, but they did not win the day today, and I know everybody knows that. The National Institutes of Health just gave the Cleveland Clinic $12 million of our taxpayer money to study the impact of meat on TMAO and the microbiome, because there are 1,000 studies that are indicating harm, and I am a world expert on TMAO, Dr. Saladino. Don't take me on this. You will not be happy. I will not be kind. Wait 10, 20 years before you play with this dangerous diet.
The reason this is dangerous is when people become so blinded by their own...
It's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. What's dangerous is what people are eating nowadays. Now, I'm saying this from memory. 50 years ago, okay, people ate fewer fruits and vegetables. People ate more red meat, okay? And basically, people back then ate meat and potatoes in the United States. And I'm speaking in the United States. People weren't as fat. People didn't have all of these, fucked up diseases and shit. Okay? Now, but nowadays, it's everywhere. Just go to Walmart, for God's sakes. And these people are diseased. And these people like this and all of this research and these people like this are a part of that. And it's criminal. I don't understand why anybody would listen to these numbnuts on this show at all.
Own personal agenda that they start vilifying everything else. So Dr. Khan is a vegan, okay? I'm not. And so if Dr. Khan, if he said right now that anyone who eats any animal-based products is jeopardizing their health for the rest of their lives, I would say, Dr. Khan, you're wrong. I'm not saying, in my opinion, I think there are people out there who include meat in their diet and do really well. But you cannot sit here and say that the best, if every single person in this room eliminated all fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds from their diet, yeah, you cannot sit here and look me in the eyes and tell me that we have data that we're not potentially ruining all of our health over the long term.
We're not potentially ruining our health, okay? There are things that have been introduced into the human diet. A lot of seed oils like soybean oil, cottonseed oil, canola oil, which is it's my understanding that it's like genetically modified. It's created food, okay? That this sort of thing, you don't know what it's done to human health. And people have been eating meat, as Dr. Saladino says, people have been eating meat since we've been human. And then they want to sit here and say, oh, well, eliminating all this other stuff is going to, you don't know what the long-term health is. They don't know what the long-term health is of most of this shit. But anyway.
What I am saying is not that we should all eliminate all plants from our diet.
What
I am saying is I am bringing attention to the notion that fruits and vegetables contain things that can be harmful to humans. And in cases where humans are not getting better, we should consider a carnivore diet that excludes those as a safe option, because there are no detriments to eating only meat.
So back to Sarah and Ashley, because this is important. I like the point you just made. I thought that was very valid.
Yeah, but he's not gonna dwell on it. At least, I'll give this man here his propers for that.
If you're Sarah and Ashley and you've tried every possible diet and it hasn't worked for you, and over the short term you try something like this, who am I to judge them? They're doing well. But
yeah, who are you to judge them?
20s. and you do need to think about your long-term health. So I would recommend that you keep doing what you're doing for the most part if that's what you want to do, but do not listen to anyone who tells you that all fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, fiber.
I'll assert that don't listen to any of these idiots at all. If something's working for you, it doesn't really matter what it doesn't really even matter what population studies say. That's on populations. You're an individual. Okay? What works for everyone else may not work for you. Okay? But they just, oh my God, you're gonna freaking die if you just eat meat. And the man keeps saying, and he's absolutely correct, that there's nothing shows that meat's bad. Meat is very nutritious. These are the facts. Why do you need to put plant food in your body at all? And the answer is you don't.
Fiber is terrible for you because over the long term, you might be jeopardizing your health. You just don't know it.
I think it's fair to say, just like you're saying, some people thrive on eating no meat. I mean, that's great for them. Some people can thrive on eating all animal products. Who's to say? We can get all the nutrients that we need as humans by eating nose-to-tail carnivore approach. Yeah, and we have the blood work to back this up.
Yes.
Before we went this route, we were eating.
Yes, exactly. Now, the young lady there said a very, very profound thing. You can get all the nutrients you need from eating animal foods if you eat, nose to tail. Now, I'd also like to point out that all of these RDAs and these recommended daily allowances or whatever are not scientifically based. They're based on opinion. Oh, we think you need this much vitamin A or this much this or whatever. There's no science behind any of it. The science is in how you feel. You.
Eating a very high plant-based diet, and we got blood nutrient panels that showed severe nutrient deficiencies.
You know, it's interesting, Sarah and Ashley, when I hear your story, unequivocally, I think the way that you're eating now is probably exponentially healthier than the standard American diet. And 100%. I think that's important to note. I think when you look at the
standard American diet is a plant-based diet. Yes. If you're going to, people eating stuff from the supermarket frozen food section, or you're going and eating at most restaurants or whatever, which a lot of people do, it's not animal-based. Most of the fats you consume are vegetable-type oils, mostly soybean and shit like this, and you can go look this stuff up yourself. Stuff like French fries. What are they fried in? They're fried in vegetable oil. They're not fried in lard or beef tallow, okay? If you eat like a sandwich or something, there could be some cheese and some meat, but you got a lot of bread and you've got lettuce and all this other shit. That's what you're eating. And God knows you drink something like sugar water soda or something. It's just all, sugar is plant-based, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what they're eating. But anyway.
Standard American diet, it's heavy not only in processed meats, processed foods, processed carbs. That's why we have seen an increase in obesity, inflammatory diseases. Who am I to tell you, Sarah and Ashley, what to eat? I just hope that...
Yeah, who are you to fucking tell them what to eat? And who are you or the rest of these fucking shitheads on this show there to scare people about eating this way? That's what I don't like. This gets me worked up, and this is the reason you shouldn't listen to these people. Now, I'm not telling you not to go to your doctor. Now, there's some things that the medical community is very good at, but when you're talking about long-term health, they other than, hey, don't smoke, they don't really have any success stories. Okay, they don't give you the right answer. All they do is say, oh, go out and exercise and eat this diet that, which is all grain based and all this other bullshit, which there's no real science on that either. But they don't give you this option. And people just keep getting more and more unhealthy. You're talking about, anything to do with like rheumatoid arthritis or diabetes. And I'm going to get into this in a little bit. I know this is a long video, but this is ridiculous.
If you're truly someone who had an elevated ANA, continue to work with the rheumatologist while you very closely watch your health. I would also just add that I'm stoked that you're this passionate.
My rheumatologist simply prescribed me medications that were going to band-aid my symptoms. And I'm
no
not
interest in
hating
Yes, absolutely.
anything.
That's exactly the point. And I want to make sure that we know that all these doctors do, right? When you walk into a doctor's office, the one thing they want to do is give you a goddamn pill. All they want to do is treat you for a symptom. Now, if you want to know why healthcare costs are exploding, it's because of that. Oh, I've got an ache. I gotta get a pill. Now, these ladies right here aren't taking pills. And that's probably the reason this whole thing is demonized, because, a lot of people want you to take pills because there's a lot of money in it. But that's tinfoil hat territory, and I won't get into that right now.
But I think what you said was great. Ashley and I resolved our symptoms going carnivore by the elimination of plants and eating a nutrient-dense, meat-based diet. That is not to say that we will never incorporate some sort of vegetable into our diet again. I just think the main takeaway is that carnivore can be so therapeutic for susceptible humans who might have a weakened immune system. And it is a route that somebody could consider taking once nothing else has worked for them as it did for us.
And that is a safe route because we can get all the nutrients that we need.
Yeah, you see, now this young lady right here, she's saying that it is a safe route. Some people, the other one is saying, well, if nothing else works, well, why shouldn't you do this first? There's no reason why you shouldn't do it first. It's easy. May or may not work for you. But why is it the last resort? See, that's what they're trying to say. Well, go take some pills and maybe to get better. The doctors don't cure you of anything.
Nobody needs to say you need to eat this way for the rest of your life, but it is a therapeutic route you can take if nothing else has worked for you, and I think we can all agree on that.
And if you're passionate about this, which I really think you are, I would just hope that you would do research that can be published in one of the journals, and so that we can build upon.
Okay, now she's going to school him,
I
right?
wrote a book on this. It's called the Carnivore Code, and there are over 400 studies that I cite in there. We are beginning study on the carnivore diet specifically. But in that book, I address every single one of them.
Yes, you won't let him talk.
But when we reference studies, we think about peer-reviewed journals. Right. So I know you're passionate about it. And
of course, we talk about peer-reviewed journals, not the schlock that you're putting forward, Dr. Saladino. You see, we've got this priesthood over here that's peer-reviewed in the Journal of the American Medical Association. And, look, heretic, you're being burned at the stake.
And I think that's great. And I just want to encourage you to continue to gather information and then submit that information to your peers so that you can come and say, no, wait, it's not just me.
Why does he need to? You see, the thing is, this is part of the propaganda too. It's like, look, you aren't good enough to do your own research. You have to give this to us so we can reject it, or it has no legitimacy. And again, where are their success stories? Where are their success stories? I'll put it to you this way. I don't think they have many of them at all.
I'm not not just saying this. I'm basing this on science. And when I tell patients that there are no risks associated with this carnivore diet, I am basing it on hardcore science because we all want the best thing for patients.
No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't. They do not want the best thing for patients. Not the doctors on this show. Now, maybe the doctor at, you go to, I don't want to say this. A lot of them do. Maybe some of them are ignorant. They don't really understand. They may be afraid because, you can be ridiculed like Dr. Saladino. You could possibly lose your license or whatever. But anyway, I don't think when you look at the medical establishment as a whole, this whole thing is too stupid to be stupid, as the old man used to say. Oh, you cannot go down that path. No, you can't do that because in 20 years you're going to die. Whereas these ladies were suffering terribly. But you're going to die in 20 or 30 years.
Claiming all of these studies and you're vilifying plants, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes. Even Sarah and Ashley have acknowledged that this, over the short term, has helped their symptoms. I applauded them for that. They're eating grass-fed animal products. I've written books talking about if you're going to eat meat, animal-based products, that's the way to go.
There's no studies to say grass-fed's better than grain-fed.
Vilified animal-based products, they've been done on conventionally raised animal-based products, which is very different. Look,
how do you know
where
that?
you're coming from. You're creating a name for yourself right now. You're writing a book, and I'm proud of you for that. But you have to be a little bit careful because you're acting like an expert.
Yeah, talk down to this man.
Autoimmune disease. You're
got to talk. You got to be a little bit careful because you might actually help someone. And, you have to be careful because, I might not have a job if you expose just how much of a fraud this show is.
Not an expert in nutrition. However, you have become, you have found this area, the carnivore diet, and that's your thing, and that's great. But what I would recommend when you're talking to patients is, feel free to say, try this, see how you're doing. But this isn't the end-all, be-all. There are numerous.
No, of course it's not the end-all, be-all, because we've got pills. We've got pills.
To take that as the key.
So I thank everyone for being here, but most importantly, Sarah and Ashley, I'm just happy that you guys are doing well, and you're clearly well-read, knowledgeable. And how I would like to close this out to all of our viewers is you need to find the diet that works for you in general.
Thank you. Yes.
Extremes tend to not be the best approach.
Where does he come up with that? Extremes tend not to be the best approach. Okay, now he's just saying that. Based on what? If we're going to talk about science.
But educate yourself. And the reality is if you're working with a physician and your physician...
They did educate themselves, you fucking moron.
And poo-poos, food is medicine. Find a new physician.
Yes, you ought to find a new physician. Now, I agree with him on that. Because if you go to a doctor and they sit there and they tell you that you got to take a pill for the rest of your life over some kind of a long-term disease, you do need to get you another goddamn doctor.
We unequivocally know that food does impact inflammation in our bodies. You have to find the right diet.
Yes, you do.
For you that hopefully will lead you to a long, happy, healthy life. I thank all of our guests for being here today. Really appreciate it. Sarah and Ashley, we wish you nothing but the best going forward. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Okay, now I'm going to give you a personal thing that happened with me. Okay, this happened like 20 years ago. Okay, started putting on weight, had a, when my wife was, pregnant with her second child, she had a little problems with diabetes, during pregnancy or whatever. So, we got a glucometer and all. I started checking my blood sugar. Well, I started noticing that it was all over the place. So I went to a doctor and, then I wound up at an endocrinologist, and this doctor, all they wanted to do was put me on fucking medications. Oh, do this diet. Same diet that Dr. Fucking Khan said, fruits and vegetables and grains and just a little bit of healthy protein and shit. I could not eat that fucking diet. The reason I couldn't eat that fucking diet is because I was never fucking satisfied. I was hungry all the fucking time. And it just made it where, and then it was like, okay, we'll start taking this, some kind of thing to, I don't know what it did, but it would either make you produce more insulin, or maybe it was, I don't know what the fuck it was. To be honest with you, I started taking that medication and I put on more fucking weight. And then it was terrible. So that's when I started doing my own research. You see, because I'm trained as an engineer, I'm trained in root cause analysis. That's why this is Lean Sigma life coaching. I didn't want to go in there. I wanted to find the cause of this problem, not treating symptoms. What was causing it? Well, I went and looked through every diet they had out at the time. And thank God for Dr. Robert Atkins. I went and bought his book. I read 10 diet books, at least. And the one with Dr. Atkins made the most sense to me. So I started doing a low-carb diet, okay? And lost a bunch of weight and got my blood sugar under control, okay? It wasn't because of a doctor. Except maybe Dr. Atkins in his book, but he's somebody, he got ridiculed just like Dr. Saladino here. He was ridiculed like that, like 15, 20 years ago, bad. Well, the issue is you got to do your own research. And I don't see why anybody, when it comes to this point of medicine, and I want to qualify this, when we're talking about long-term type chronic diseases, right? Like diabetes or rheumatoid arthritis or, some of the stuff these ladies were suffering from. Going to a traditional medical doctor is probably one of your worst routes, because all they want to do is give you pills or give you this stupid diet that probably might have a 10% success rate if you're able to stay on it. That's all. That's all I've got to say about this. This is ridiculous. But remember, this show right here, which I don't watch this show, but it's like he was a heretic. Dr. Saladino's a heretic. They put his ass on trial to do nothing but discredit and keep you from actually finding out information that doesn't come from them. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, you have a good day.